So first, let me start by saying what the Microsystems Technology Lab is, MTL. It was founded in 1984, so in order to be able to play in the semiconductor device fabrication area, Stanford and other universities had already such labs, and we didn't. So MIT decided to invest heavily, hiring faculty, including Raphael Reif, I believe at that time, and setting up a lab. So we used the old mainframe computer lab, where the old IBM 360s were, refurbished it and made a fabrication lab. It's a really facilities-intensive lab, so MIT is contributing a lot of money, several $1 million a year, to keep it running. So it's really important that we are able to serve the entire MIT community and even some of the other local universities, rather than just a single faculty. And this is the thing that is really different from most of the university labs, is that everybody has their own lab, and with the equipment and the facilities required for semiconductor device fabrication, that was really not viable. So we have a shared facility, and the sharedness manifests itself in almost everything. The equipment is shared, the students participate in the governance, the faculty share the equipment as well, and sometimes they buy equipment for the fab that other people can use. So it's really a very unique setup for what's normally available at universities. There are several in the country now who have such facilities. Our peer universities in general, but even some of the smaller ones are going to that mode because it is really the way to go. Not only do you train the students to share equipment and to cross-pollinate their projects in a very important way, it also makes sense. That's the way industry works, and that's the way the world works. So we're doing that. In terms of the evolution, when it started, it was really semiconductor devices only, and silicon being the primary material. Since 1984, it has evolved, obviously, because the devices have evolved and the materials as well, into using anything, basically any technology that can be used to make small devices. Tom Magnati used to call it tiny technologies. And basically what we do is we use the same processes that are used to make semiconductor chips to make other things, like for example a small micro engine or a small DNA chip and so forth. The materials tend to be still silicon is the primary with its companion germanium, but we're also moving into some of the more interesting light emitting and light responding materials like gallium nitride and 3,5 semiconductors, and pushing the envelope a little bit, even other materials like plastics and ceramics and polymers and so forth. So anything that can be done with semiconductor processing technology, we can do. In terms of facilities and equipment, we basically have, because we have to be so versatile and serve all of the MIT community, we have 3 different labs which have 3 different levels of cleanliness and sophistication of equipment. The first one is really a mini Intel or IBM. Is what you find in that lab is what you would see in the real fabs, except 1 of instead of 10 of something. The second floor, that's on the second floor. On the 4th floor, we have a more flexible research lab, which is called Technology Research Lab, and there several materials can come. And some of the innovations in processing and in materials start there, and if they're compatible with a more mainstream fabrication, we send it down to the 2nd floor. And then on the 5th floor, we have kind of a garage works lab, in which anything goes as long as it's safe. And there's no barrier for entry, no contamination concerns, so people can go and play and develop gadgets and widgets and so forth, and they do. Then they discover that cleanliness matters, which is a more natural way of knowing how important it is rather than being told, and they can migrate some of them to the cleaner labs downstairs. In terms of the equipment, the problem always is that university research tends to be one wafer or small pieces, and some of the industrial tools are made for large volumes and large wafers. We are now at 6-inch diameter. The modern tools are at 8-inch. So we constantly have to renew, and even 12-inch, we constantly have to renew our tool set. And this is where some of our industrial collaborations help us, but we'll get into that a little bit later. In terms of the exciting materials right now, gallium nitride is the golden boy or girl. Everybody wants to play on it. It's really difficult to work to get the wafers, but it can be fabricated. The devices can be fabricated on the same kind of equipment that we have for the other 3.5s in silicon. We recently acquired a e-beam direct write machine in which you don't need a mask and you can get dimensions which are very small, a few nanometers. And that required a major collaboration between the School of Science and Engineering and EECS and MTL. We all contributed money to get it, and the vendor gave us a great discount. So we have a really cool, super state-of-the-art e-beam writer machine, which anybody can use. I mean, you just get trained on it and you can use. So we've done all sorts of cool devices. One of the largest programs, which Marty Schmidt was in charge of with several other faculty, was a micro engine, to build a micro engine, which is basically a turbine the size of a shirt button, using essentially every technology we know in terms of semiconductor devices. But the beauty of that is that it forced us to get off the plane, which is normally what happens. When you're building a semiconductor chip, it's normally 2 dimensions. By using wafer bonding, we were able to build the 3rd dimension. And these were, in order to make the micro engine, we were bonding 7 wafers, which was fairly heroic. We had, I don't know, 42 researchers, I don't know how many students working on this thing. It was a real beauty, it lasted a long time, and it really, really stressed all our capabilities. And it made us become very good at wafer bonding and deep reactive ion etching, in which you really drill a hole through the entire wafer and then you align it to make a nozzle and so forth. So it's really, really fun project. We also, one of our other success stories is a startup called Microchips, which was the PhD thesis of one of our students, who then went on to found the company, and Bob Langer was involved with it, and I believe it's still viable. So it's really cool to see it go into the real world.